Hello everyone, welcome to this conference on nature-based solutions for the Mediterranean Basin. Very happy to see you there on a Sunday morning in Marseille. Sunny, morning, but we don't see it, but it's sunny. I will be the moderator for this session. I'm Yann Laurence, I'm from WWF France, working for biodiversity, terrestrial biodiversity, by the way. And I'll just be moderating, let's say, the sessions, introducing the topics, the guests, and of course, doing the timekeeping. We will have today mostly 3 sessions from, let's say, framing and a general discussion on what's new, what are the developments in terms of nature-based solutions in the Mediterranean Basin. Then going to testimonies on the field. That will be a long session divided in 2. One will be before the lunch and one after the lunch. I hope you'll be awake for the second one as well. And then we will end, and that will be Raphaël Billé moderating that session. We will end with trying to devise together an action plan for the development of nature-based solutions. As you know, nature-based solutions is somehow an old idea with a new name. We can date back some ideas that nature should be put at the service of humankind and the general functioning of the planet since the antiques, and there's been a lot of efforts to progressively design these solutions and to also produce guidelines so as to avoid using nature in an inconvenient way. The IUCN has been very active and proactive in devising such guidelines, definitions and guidelines, garde-fous in French, we would say, to avoid that nature would be too much, let's say, used in a too intensive way, and that biodiversity would be at loss due to too much use of nature. So all that is a matter of equilibrium between the various uses we have for and we would want to have for nature, and we know. I will not present, of course, the ecological crisis. It's not to be introduced anymore. Everyone knows it, and the Mediterranean Basin crisis. I'm not there to that, but our presenters will certainly put their speech in the context of what's happening now. So the first session will be with Raphaël Billé, Céline Dubreuil, and Andrés Alcántara Valero. Sorry, thank you very much. And that will be about, let's say, the stakes in the Mediterranean Basin and the nature-based solutions perspectives. What's new? What's coming now? What are the developments that we have witnessed and that we foresee for the future? I will give the floor first to Raphaël Billé. Raphaël Billé is an old friend of mine. You don't care about that, but I do. We've been together in very related positions. Raphaël is now the program director at Tour du Valat. He's the successor of Patrick Griaz. And working on development management and development of the project of Tour du Valat. I don't think I need to introduce Tour du Valat. Maybe you will do that, Raphaël. I will give you the floor first for this presentation. Then I will give it to you, Andrés, in the name of Antonio Troya, who's I guess is weighted somewhere else, and you will introduce the topic as well, and then to Céline Dubreuil from Plan Bleu. Raphaël, the floor is yours first. Comme tu veux. Ouais. Je prends ta place là-bas. Là.
Okay, good morning everyone. So I have my mic, I have the pointer, I have the headphones. Is it working? Yeah? Okay. So nice to meet you all. I'm Raphaël Billé. As Yann said, I am leading the program at Tour du Valat. And my mission this morning is to introduce the concept of nature-based solutions in the framework of, in the context of the Mediterranean. So please bear with me if you're already completely fluent or bilingual with all the NbS jargon and everything, but the objective really is to give us some common ground, some common understanding, and make sure that that we start with sufficient knowledge in common of what nature-based solutions are. So it will be quite general. Just to start with, in case you don't know Tour du Valat, the foundation for which I'm working, Tour du Valat was established in 1954 by Luc Hoffmann, and it's a private foundation working for the conservation of wetlands in the Mediterranean. We have 4 broad objectives, which are to understand the process, to manage wetlands, convey and convince the results of our work. Now, just a bit of context on the Mediterranean to frame the idea of why we need nature-based solutions, or why we need solutions after all in the Mediterranean. As I will be very quick on this, as you probably know the Mediterranean context already, but the Mediterranean is a region of great socioeconomic pressures and tensions. We have 83% of the GDP in the Mediterranean, which is on the northern shore, which means very high levels of inequality in the region. And this is, of course, a very strong point to keep in mind when we talk about sustainable development. It's also the first touristic destination worldwide. In terms of demography, the population has increased threefold in 1 century, and it's bound to keep rising a lot in the next decades. Politically, you all know that the region is sometimes and in some places quite unstable. The environment is still low on many of the national agendas in the region, and we have governance issues that are manifold, but we're still struggling with more inclusive democracy and participatory processes, and civil society playing a stronger role in decision-making processes. In terms of the environment, the Mediterranean is usually called both a climate change and biodiversity hotspot. It's been defined as a biodiversity hotspot by the official list of biodiversity hotspots worldwide. On the climate change side of things, it's a bit more informal, but yes, the Mediterranean is warming 20% faster than the global average. And while the ecosystems play a critical role in the development of the region, they are very much under threat, and we are losing a lot of biodiversity already. So that's why we need solutions. What are nature-based solutions? There is some, like an official definition, which has been, as Jan said in introduction, IUCN has been very proactive in the last decade to promote and define and further refine the concept of nature-based solutions, NbS in short. And they've come up with this definition, which is the reference today. So nature-based solutions are actions to protect, sustainably manage, and restore natural and modified ecosystems in ways that address societal challenges effectively and adaptively to provide both human well-being and biodiversity benefits. It's a definition. It has to be broad and theoretical, but will come to much more practical elements in the next few hours. Some examples of nature-based solutions. I'm not sure it's readable, but you can, nature-based solutions are very varied in nature, and you can plant cover crops, for example, to reduce contamination and erosion of nutrients while maintaining productivity. You can use wetlands, because wetlands are buffers against climate change effects, sea level rise, floodings, extreme weather events, and so on. You can restore habitats. You can do agroforestry. Reforestation is very high also on the NbS agenda, of course. So there are plenty of different solutions, and we'll have, again, many examples today to discuss. Now, solutions to what? IUCN, again, in the official doctrine or literature on NbS, has defined 7 broad challenges that NbS are supposed to help address. And these are climate change mitigation and adaptation, disaster risk reduction, economic and social development, human health, food security, water security, and environmental degradation and biodiversity loss. Which means that for an intervention to be considered or to be labeled as an NbS, it must address one or several of these societal challenges in an integrated manner. And it's important, if an NbS addresses a biodiversity loss as a primary target, it has to address also some of the other challenges, societal challenges, to be considered an NbS. Otherwise, it's just good old conservation, which is perfectly fine and legitimate, but it's not considered NbS. I think for the sake of timekeeping, I will skip this one, but the idea is that there are standards, there are guidelines. All this is really starting to be very well defined, so I invite you to refer to the available IUCN literature. There's also some scientific papers increasingly providing more thoughts, more food for thought on NbS, and I will give a few references at the end. Now to start the discussion, maybe, just a few words on where the NbS concept originates. Jan has mentioned it briefly. The NbS phrase itself is pretty new, but the idea of using forests, for example, to regulate flooding on watersheds is nothing like new. 150 years ago, people knew that already, and 2,000 years ago, they probably knew it already, at least some of them, like today. So it's an old idea, but it has progressed in terms of the definition, in terms of the conditions under which it can be implemented. So is it just a rebranding of biodiversity conservation and its sustainable use, which is something we often hear, or a rebranding of ecosystem services, which 10 years ago was clearly the dominant concept worldwide? I would say no, it's not just a rebranding. And there are key sentences in the literature that help understand why it's not a rebranding. So two I would like to quote. There is a domain of conservation which focuses on safeguarding biodiversity for its irreplaceable value. Okay, and then another domain focuses on safeguarding biodiversity, society, and the latter are known as nature-based solutions. So while there is some overlap between the two, of course, not all conservation interventions are nature-based solutions. And I think that's really key to keep in mind. And people are viewed as proactively protecting, managing, or restoring ecosystems in addressing a range of major societal challenges under NbS, rather than passive beneficiaries of nature, which was probably one of the weaknesses of the ecosystem services concept. We didn't see the role of people of the society in getting the benefits from these ecosystem services. So no, it's not just a rebranding, but yes, it's a little of a rebranding. There is some overlap, there is sometimes a lot of overlap. Isn't it fine? We can discuss it. To me, it's not a big problem, and to me, the key question really is not whether it's a rebranding. The key question for today, it's whether it's a useful concept and how can we harness it to progress the agenda that we want to progress in the Mediterranean. And the last question, does it replace older concepts? No, clearly it doesn't replace all the other concepts we've been working with in the past. It's an umbrella concept, so it's very broad, and all the other concepts we've been working on, like integrated water resources management, eco-DRR, ecosystem-based adaptation, and so on and so forth, they all fit under the NbS concept in a way that, I won't go into the details, but it's been clearly explained in the literature. Skipping this one, too much detail. Just to clarify the discussion for today, there are sometimes some confusion between three of these concepts: nature-based solutions, which I've just defined, nature-derived solutions, and that's for example, wind farms. Wind farms are not nature-based solutions. Of course, you're using the wind to produce energy, so you're using nature in a way, but they're not considered as nature-based solutions. And then you have nature-inspired solutions, which are often called biomimicry, and again, that's not nature-based solutions either. There may be some overlaps at some point, but usually we try to distinguish between the three. And finally, a few more questions that I think we will come to discuss today. So is it a useful concept? I was saying to me it's one of the key questions, more than is it new or is it old, or we don't really mind if it's new or old. Does it help us in the Mediterranean achieving what we're trying to achieve? And especially, to be more specific, what are we learning? NbS hold the promise to be cost-effective, easy to maintain, long-term solutions with multiple co-benefits. Is this promise being kept from what we see in terms of implementation in the Mediterranean? Another question which is important, how can we increase speed and scale? If we agree that it's an important concept and that we should promote NbS implementation, how can we increase speed and scale? And actually, who are we? Who is supposed to increase speed and scale in the implementation? Is it the society at large, or is it certain groups of stakeholders? We can discuss that. What are the main barriers to implementation? Because if we've known the idea of NbS for 2,000 years, it means there are quite some barriers to implementation. We should discuss that. And of course, what regional framework is needed to accelerate NbS implementation, especially after that we have the Resolution 31 adopted at this Congress. I leave it here. Thank you very much, and I hope we'll have some time for discussion later.
Definitely. Thank you very much, Raphaël. Thank you very much for this very active and efficient way of setting the scene. We will now move on to a presentation from Andrés Alcántara, who's from IUCN working on the Mediterranean. They are doing excellent job, as you might know, some of you, on the Mediterranean basin, and in trying to somehow develop nature-based solutions. We've been together working, by the way, with, for example, the Moroccan and the Tunisian authorities on developing what's possible to be implemented in these countries, and especially since the Mediterranean basin has been very active in promoting nature-based solutions in their nationally determined contribution to the Paris Agreement. So it's a topic that's very important on the Mediterranean, and you've been doing work on that. So please help us to keep on setting the scene on what's happening, what's the situation today in your region.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Today I'm the speaker of this presentation, but I'm the speaker of a team of experts from IUCN Mediterranean Cooperation Center, from different departments, and a speaker of a team of different organizations around the world. So this is the experience of IUCN Med as coordinator of Mediterranean expert institutions and organizations from IUCN and another in the Mediterranean. First issue is that our director Antonio Troya is impossible to be here because he has another meeting from the Congress, and so he is greeting from all of you, but it's impossible for him to stay here. Well, after the first presentation, he finalized in the motion 36. I will begin in this one, okay, because IUCN Med is working in the last years on nature-based solutions, and today we are discussing about the present and the future. And the future is today. Why? Because we have a motion from this Congress that it was approved, that it's called the implementation of nature-based solutions in the Mediterranean basin. So I would like to focalize in different points about this motion, that it will be the road for the next years for Mediterranean. The first one is the work that IUCN and members has worked in the last years. First was the resolution that it was approved in Hawaii in 2016 about nature-based solution. Another key point that we are working and the members and organizations must have a clear idea is about the key point about nature-based solutions on European Commission. European Commission, the nature-based solution is one key point for the strategic for sustainable in the Mediterranean, and of course one key point that we'll see in the next day, today around the day, is sustainable cities. Another key point that we mustn't forget that appear in the resolution is the meeting, the workshop that we had here in Marseille on January 2019 about implementation of nature-based solution on tackle climate change. Yes, many of you were in this meeting, in this workshop. It was one key point, example of coordination and to work together among different organizations from the Mediterranean. Another point that we mustn't forget, you explained in your first presentation, is that the Mediterranean is a hot spot. So it's very important, don't forget that we are in a hot spot about biodiversity and climate change. President Macron explained in the beginning, in the opening session, that is the key point about climate change and biodiversity in the Mediterranean. So nature-based solution is one of these key point solutions for the future. Another point that we mustn't forget, as you said in the first speaker, it was about the security, human health, disaster risk, economic and social development. That's another key point for the Mediterranean. No? Well, in this motion you have different points, and I will focalize for the future, for today and the next years, is that the members of IUCN focalize in to work about nature-based solutions for the creation of networks. That is key point for us today, is to work together and to establish this networking for nature-based solution and the Mediterranean. And another point is the green infrastructure, is the relationship between nature-based solution and green infrastructure. We mustn't forget that this point about nature-based solution and to focalize in different items, wetlands, cities, appear in the motion because we must work together. In the motion appear clear Med, Ramsar, Paris Agreement, different institutions that they are working in the Mediterranean, and we must work together. So, we have three key questions for the next years to think about nature-based solutions in the Mediterranean. First is establish an action plan about nature-based solutions in the Mediterranean. We have the experience, the knowledge, the networking, and so we are in the right way to establish this action plan about nature-based solutions in the Mediterranean. The second one is governance. IUCN and many members from the Mediterranean, they have knowledge and experience about governance with governments, regional agency, private sectors, and local people. So it's necessary to establish this Mediterranean governance because we have a reality about the Mediterranean society, so we need this Mediterranean governance. And the last point, of course, the last but not the least, financing. We need budget, we need to establish a clear line of financing about nature-based solutions in the Mediterranean. So that is the key points that we would like to establish in 5-6 minutes with you to discuss later. And this motion is the present and the future about nature-based solutions in the Mediterranean. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much for this very interesting presentation, and I do agree that you have especially very good knowledge and know-how on working to put all these three components together, and especially the governance for part of it, for which for Mediterranean for all regions is key to anything that could be implemented on the field. And that's the long part. Let's say it's what takes long to actually team up people and producing some governance. Thank you very much. We are moving now on to Céline Dubreuil. Céline is an oceanologist by training and is today the program director at Plan Bleu. You'll explain in 2 words what's Plan Bleu, an international organization for the Mediterranean Basin. And Céline, can you give us your ideas on the your views on this context and on your action towards implementation of nature-based solutions?
Thank you very much for inviting me. So first of all, I would like to present briefly what is Plan Bleu. Plan Bleu is a regional activity center attached to the Mediterranean Action Plan from UNEP, which is based in France, in Marseille. We have been created 43 years ago as a systemic and prospective analysis center in the Med region. And also today we host the MEDEC Secretariat, a network of Mediterranean experts on climate and environmental change. Our premises are based in Marseille. So maybe it has been mentioned already before, this our work, our collaborative